Hi, welcome everyone. Good afternoon. This is Deepak. I'm the program lead for DevOps and Cloud at Great Learning. I welcome all of you to today's webinar. Thank you for taking out time on a weekend, especially a Sunday, and a happy Vasant Panchami to each one of you. Right. Just a quick audio check. Can all of you let me know if the audio is all clear? You can type in the questions window or the chat box. Okay, yeah, thanks, Prerna. All right. So what we'll do is we are just waiting for our special guest today, Mr. Nirmalya Mukherjee, who is the main speaker for this particular webinar. What I'll do is I'll quickly check if he's been able to join the webinar, and we'll get started once the audio is all good from his side. Just give me a moment, guys. Good afternoon, Mr. Nirmalya. Can you hear me?
Yes, Deepak, I can.
Okay, great. Yeah, we can hear you as well. So for everyone, let me quickly introduce Mr. Nirmalya Mukherjee before he kind of takes over. Uh, Mr. Nirmalya Mukherjee has been chief architect at Dell, as well as a principal architect at Infosys for a long, long time. He's had a long career and an illustrious career at that for over 2.5 decades now. And Mr. Mukherjee is also the academic director for cloud and DevOps programs at Great Learning. Right? In his own words, by heart, he calls himself a developer yet, even after 2.5 decades. And there couldn't be any more appropriate person than somebody who calls himself a developer after even 2.5 decades of a career to talk about the topic of DevOps, right, as a career option. So without any further delay, let me hand over the session to Mr. Mukherjee, and he'll walk us through his thoughts on what DevOps as a career sounds like today. Um, Mr. Nirmalya.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Deepak, for that. Yeah, it's been a fun journey, to be honest. Started writing code in 1989 in BASIC, and then it was Fortran, then Pascal, C, Java. So I'm still on Java, but obviously these days you'll have to learn Python, isn't it? So doing that as well. But I've seen a good amount of software development processes which has been around for some time, and I've seen a good amount of evolution as well. But I'll basically get down to that a little bit later. So let's get actually started with what we have for you, right? So next slide, please. So this is the agenda. So it will be divided into two parts. So first part I will try and discuss with you guys, and the second part my colleague Deepak he will handle. So what is it that we are talking about, right? What is DevOps really? So if you really look at, a lot of people think that, hey, I'm a DevOps expert. That means the other person thinks that, hey, it's a tool, but it's actually not. It is not a tool. It is not a process. Neither it is just a mindset. It is actually an amalgamation of all of these, right? And not to mention, you also have to factor in the organizational culture as well. So it's a good mix of all of these put together. That's what gives rise to DevOps. Actually, if you really look at what is the philosophy behind DevOps, why is it so popular these days, right? It's because the whole notion of releasing software in a faster in a shorter time frame, in a faster manner, in a more agile fashion is the norm these days, isn't it? Unlike the earlier days where we used to have waterfall model. Today you need to have shorter sprints and quick bursts release of application. So you need to have your software engineering principles aligned to that business need, right? So the whole idea is, unlike in the early 2000s, where the marketplace in terms of applications was not that competitive, but today everybody looks at an online presence, and that is their main source where their revenues and their businesses is coming from. And every organization is highly competitive, and everyone is looking to offer better, faster, and more efficient products and services. So all of these basically requires a different mindset, and like I said, a cultural organization, an organizational culture rather, to go out there and figure how can we align to such a thing. So that's exactly where DevOps comes into picture. Um, so let's look at the evolution of DevOps, right, in terms of how it used to happen. So historically, and this is a picture which I absolutely love. Look at it on the left hand side, right? Imagine that's a developer on the left hand side in the red t-shirt, and the operations person on the right hand side, right? So you basically work all of these, days, day in and day out, including night outs. You work and produce this application, and you throw this big bomb onto the other side, isn't it? And the operations guy is to figure out, how things are going to work, right? Now, if you really look at the entire software development life cycle, and I want to spend a little bit more time, discussing that, is traditionally, as I mentioned earlier, we had a waterfall model, right? So where we used to have these analysis followed by architecture phase, design, development, multiple test cycles, then release and monitoring. All of these used to be like nice one after the other, which was the waterfall model. And to be very honest with you, I personally delivered a project for this US client. This was, I think, in the early 2000, and the entire development and release cycle took 9 months. Nine, actually, everything put together, maybe about 11 months, right? So that's like almost a year before the customer saw anything. Now, in today's world, if you go and ask your customer, hey, you got to wait for about a year before you see anything, guess what the reaction of the customer is going to be, right? So people are really, really thinking about very, very small iterative cycles. So this is exactly where, as I mentioned earlier, the agile process, kicks in. So just think of it like this, that DevOps is not really a tool, but a set of tools and processes put together, right? So the whole idea of shortened life cycle and adopting appropriate processes is basically the whole world of DevOps. So the next question you might have is, okay, all this good, but then how do I make this happen, right? So how does it all kind of come together? So you'll have to kind of think of it like this, that at the end of the day, if the organization is up for it, only then it happens, right? It's unfortunately or fortunately, whatever you call it, not a technical decision at all, right? And it's certainly not up to the developers to go out there and make these kind of changes. So it needs to be backed by the organization and the culture, if you want DevOps to succeed. And the other thing is, and I'll show you one particular market analysis a little bit later. Most of the organizations these days are either using DevOps, or they have very aggressive plans to adopt it. And that's another reason, right? If not anything else, it's very important for you, to understand what DevOps is, and why it should be important for you as part of your career choices. So let's take a look at, what does a typical DevOps professional do, right? What is this particular individual responsible for? So if you really look at the different roles that every organization has, right, you'll find many, right? So you've got business analysts, you've got architects, designers, developers, and testers. And if you look at this particular life cycle, right, you see that each of these roles have a specific place where they can be fit in, right? Um, and obviously, in the classical model, you would have one role hand over to the other one, and then have a little bit of an overlap, and then you kind of move on, and the whole cycle kind of continues in a very sequential manner. But if you look at the current world that we are in today, right, the current need for software development, and I want to introduce another term here, which is called CI/CD. I'm sure you would have heard that: continuous integration, continuous deployment, right? What that basically means is, you need to constantly build and deploy continuous integration, right, and make sure at the same time not break anything. So if you think about it, if I want to break up my application into smaller chunks, into smaller iterations, into perhaps feature based releases, right, then I need to ensure that whatever has been in place already does not break. So how do you achieve that, right? And there are some other terms which is not very frequently used in the industry. For example, continuous feedback, continuous delivery. These are kind of things that may not be used as much as deployment and integration, but they're equally important, right? You just have to make sure that all of these things fall in place nicely for your CI, for your DevOps principles to fall in place. And now that I have kind of interchangeably used DevOps and Agile, I want to spend a little bit of time trying to give you the distinction between the two, right? So if you think about it, Agile development is everything that DevOps typically have minus the operations, right? Agile typically is with respect to the development, right? Going out there and feature releases, those stand-up calls, scrum meetings, etc., etc. All of those fall in the category of agile development, minus the operations. So operations continues to be independent if you are talking about just pure agile. So think of it like this: waterfall was swiftly replaced with agile, but in both these cases, waterfall as well as agile, the operations continue to stay independent. Now we are coming to a point, and you can see this natural evolution where organizations are saying, I need to have both of them together. And that is some places where you can say that those are the origins of the word DevOps, development plus operations, combination of that. So if you are looking to follow DevOps, you need not just have the mindset of tools, right? You need to have a whole bunch of other understanding as well with respect to the processes, understanding the business requirements, understanding what needs to be done, to be honest with you, right? Including questions like, okay, I want to make this changes. The question is why, right? How does this impact these larger business process that's already been in place? So those are the kind of mindset that you need to have. And to be honest with you, like these are not something that, yeah, next slide please. To be honest with you, this is not organized or rather adopted by the large enterprises only, right? In fact, Netflix, just look at this, right? Netflix is deploying over 118 million user base. That's a massive infrastructure to take care of. And they release features every now and then. For those who have a Netflix account, every now and then you release, there is a new movie, there is a new there could be a new UI change, there is a recategorization of your preferences, so on and so forth, right? Amazon, look at that, deploys code every 11.7 seconds. It is unbelievable, right? To achieve those kind of velocity using the waterfall model. I mean, how do you deploy code every 11.7 seconds, right? That's just incredible. So it is only possible if you have very efficient and mature DevOps processes in place. And like I mentioned, it's a combination of tools and business processes working very harmoniously together. Look at Facebook, 1.2 billion users. That's I don't know what, maybe 1/6 of the world's population that they cater to, and they release capabilities every 2 weeks. So how is all that possible? And obviously, Fidelity, a financial institution, look at the amount of bottom line dollars that they ended up saving. So DevOps is something that you can think of it as not a good to have. It's becoming must have, if not already. So enterprises are realizing the benefits of this. Enterprises are realizing the cost dimension of this, and it looks good on both accounts. And not to mention, obviously, the personal growth of an individual as well, right? So let's take a look at some of the reasons, or why an organization would want to go out there and have plans of DevOps. So there was this interview, slightly dated, but I'll tell you what, if you look at this particular picture closely, you'll realize about 1% back in 2017 were not interested in DevOps, and about 9% said interested but no immediate plans, right? So this is almost what, 2.5 years back. And what we are saying is that the enterprises back then, 2 years back, were saying 90% of them, they were interested or have implementations on DevOps going, and only 10%. So it's reasonable to kind of extrapolate from this and figure out that this 10% would have dropped even more, right? So chances are pretty much every single organization, not just the massive ones, are adopting cloud computing. This is mass adoption around the world. In fact, probably the reason why you are here is you yourself are familiar with DevOps and want to know more, or you've had your friends talk about DevOps and you would like to know more, right? So it's becoming that common. So the whole idea is, how do you now proceed? Now that you know the demand is there, now you know that the enterprises out there are using, DevOps. So what is it that you should do, right? And why you should go out there and look at learning DevOps. So the fundamentals of processes around software engineering and management and deployment are changing, and we talked about this. And every organization is also rapidly adopting all of these, right? And a lot of times we hear this question that, hey, you know what, I'm not from a computer science background, or I'm not from a development background. The answer to that question is, it doesn't matter, right? If you're in IT, you need to be aware of DevOps at the least, right? If not master of it, right? So you need to be aware that organizations are really, really looking at automating these steps to increase the velocity even further. So forget about asking the question whether DevOps is right for me. People are looking to go out there and increase or make these DevOps steps even in an automated fashion, right? To increase the velocity of feature releases even further. I'm not saying that humans will not be needed, right? Absolutely. But guess what? The numbers will reduce, right? And those who remain would really be proficient in it. And that's the reason why you need to understand DevOps really, really well, right? It's and like I said, it would be a really awesome integration of tools, technology, and processes. And look at this slide. Look at the number of job openings that exist today, right? 6,000, and this is Naukri. And by the way, this does not include other roles like management and developers and testers and all of that. So actually, in reality, these number can be even larger than this. So in addition, just have a look at the compensation the developers get in comparison with the DevOps individuals, right? I don't need to say this, right? 30% higher. So obviously there is a market out there. Obviously there are organizations who are looking to adopt, right? And obviously there is a great opportunity in terms of compensation, right? I think it's a check for all of them, isn't it? All the items that one would look for in adopting anything new, right? So just this is a further evidence. Just look at this, right? What are the globally most recruited job roles? And you see DevOps is right up there. And the reason it's up there is because many organizations and professionals have not yet internalized this major shift just yet, right? There is still work in progress. And as I mentioned earlier, I would like to reiterate this at this time, to say that, listen, if I want to say I want to be a job DevOps engineer, what am I talking about? I already know Ansible, so I am a DevOps engineer. I already know Terraform, so I'm a DevOps engineer, right? Unfortunate answer is no, you're not, right? Those are just the tools, right? What about the understanding of operations? What about business? What about actually very less talked about culture? And then comes tools, yet another dimension, isn't it? So just by knowing the tool is probably not going to help you. Speaking of salary comparison, let's actually spend some time here. And if you look at this particular vertical line, that's the average salary a DevOps engineer would end up making. And this is something that I shared with you just now. But there are some segments which is kind of skewing over to the right. Let me illustrate that, why it is not necessarily an apples to apples comparison, right? So the line here we are talking about is an average salary of a DevOps engineer. So it's just unfair to compare that with a senior software engineer, isn't it? Right. So just think of it like this. A junior DevOps engineer is seemingly better placed than an equivalent software engineer, right? So that's basically what this line essentially is going to say. And if you look at when you compare that, you see that 30% approximate salary difference, or the compensation difference is kicking in. And let me also tell you this, right? This is not just a specific geographical comparison. This is actually a worldwide number, right? This is not just specific to a geography, right? So everywhere in the world, this is basically what is happening. And if you really look at in the next slide, right, what are the target job roles? You notice, right, it's basically from multiple ranges of experiences, right? You see some 12 to 20 years of a DevOps experience, director role, right? You're actually talking about junior guys. So it's, the range is just massive. So if you're looking to build a career, or you've already started in your career, and if you're looking to do a shift, right, I think DevOps probably would be a very good combination. But again, at the end of the day, it depends on what your own aspirations are, right? How you see yourself going out there, and probably a couple years down the line, several years down the line, maybe a decade down the line, right? You don't know that, right? So if you want to look at the applicability of DevOps in the current world, I think it really looks pretty awesome, right? And so just to kind of finish up here, please remember that DevOps is not about tools, right? It's about combination of multiple things, right? That's the first thing that you must keep in mind. And obviously, since all of these fields basically kick in, you need to have a good balance and understanding of all of these items. And once you have a good strong hold on of all of these, including the tools, guess what? The compensation is going to follow. Right, so that's all I had. I'm going to hand over back to my colleague Deepak to walk you through in terms of what exactly we are doing in this area from Great Learnings. So over to you, Deepak.
Thank you very much, Nirmalya, for such wonderful set of insights, and we really appreciate your valuable time. Thanks once again. Okay, so the way we'll continue from here is I'll walk you through how Great Learning and Great Lakes together are kind of building a platform for all of you, for everyone who's interested in pursuing a DevOps career, and how can we help you essentially, right? So clearly now we understand from what Nirmalya mentioned, and from all the insights, all the statistics, all the geographic distributions of salaries, job roles, across seniority, and then the meaning of DevOps itself. I'm sure all of us have confidence in looking at the market is growing aggressively, and definitely companies would need DevOps professionals at all levels, right? So Great Lakes and Great Learning have designed this DevOps engineer certificate program for working professionals exactly like yourselves. And why is it one of the most promising programs for anybody who wants to learn DevOps right from scratch, right? So it's a 3-month intensive online program, right? We've purposely used the word intensive here because a lot of online programs tend to be diluted. A lot of online programs tend to not focus on completion rates for people, for the outcomes that you achieve. But at Great Learning, we take it very seriously, right? We boast of more than 90% completion rates for all of our learning programs, and that's massive when you compare to less than 10% of people who start any online program kind of go ahead and complete it. So it's a short 3-month program, but it's very intensive. Every week you'll have mentoring sessions by industry veterans, right? So we also fortunately have on board Mr. Nirmalya Mukherjee for the mentoring sessions. Obviously not all of the sessions, but definitely some of them. I am myself one of the mentors for the DevOps program here. So you'll have mentoring sessions from people who actually practice DevOps and cloud in this particular program. Now, like we've been, saying continuously over time now, that it's not just a set of tools. It's also it needs to be clubbed with a couple of other things. Your approach to learning, as far as DevOps is concerned, you need to understand culture, the business implications of what you're doing in terms of change. How do you aggressively combine a set of tools together? And more often than not, we all know that tools will change over time, right? But it's your understanding of the entire area of the technicalities and in the business sense itself that will not change over time, right? So you will have a lot of hands-on exposure with 8 real-life use cases, which will assign to you in the form of labs and projects. Most importantly, we do not give you a skewed perspective of what DevOps is, right? We do not just tell you, hey, how to do DevOps in a traditional sense, in old school fashion, with using tools like, and essentially this is about doing things off the cloud, right? New age companies, even large enterprises, want to do DevOps in a much more agile fashion, and that is the reason they want to use and leverage the power of cloud. So as part of the program, we teach you both how to do DevOps off the cloud in the traditional sense, and how to do DevOps on the cloud, which people essentially call cloud native DevOps, right? So the program covers both the perspectives. And since this is an accelerated program, we also set you up for career success, which I'll talk about a bit later. But you get enough mentoring and career support to have, kind of achieve and aim for a meaningful transition by putting in the entire effort. Now, as far as the curriculum is concerned, and for the questions, what will you learn? This is kind of a snapshot for you to quickly understand what you will learn as part of the program. So as far as the platform and the language is concerned, we assign you a preparatory work even before you start learning the first course. Now that is based on Linux and Python, right? Some of you might not be from Linux background, could be from Windows as well, but please do not worry about it. The Linux learning material that we share with you should be more than enough for you to get started, right? As long as you complete it. Similarly, for Python, for non-developers amongst you, you can easily pick up Python, which is one of the most comprehensive languages and versatile languages at the same time. And it's a great skill to learn, right? So we'll teach you that as well. Both of these are self-paced modules, and you need to complete these even before you start the first course and the mentoring sessions. We teach you a whole bunch of tools as far as host configuration, logging and monitoring, image management, infra as a code is concerned. And as a principal cloud platform, we teach you AWS, right? And we teach you enough of AWS so that you can go ahead and also aim for a certification. Just a polite disclaimer here. Our curriculum is not designed or aimed for you to qualify for an AWS certification, right? There are enough, enough content and programs out for there. That's not our intention. Our intention is to give you a much more comprehensive view of, cloud native DevOps as well as traditional DevOps, and AWS happens to play a significant part in that journey, right? But you will learn enough of AWS. You'll also learn things like Docker, Terraform, Ansible, Chef, the ELK stack, etc. So this is the curriculum at a higher level. And also, we don't just teach you Docker. As far as containers are concerned, we also take you back to the roots of Docker, wherein it essentially came from, right? So that's Linux containers, right? LXD for you. We also cover Kubernetes. In fact, we cover managed Kubernetes on cloud, right, on AWS, and we'll be happy to share how it works on Google as well, as an extra insight. And for cloud native DevOps, like I said, you'll do it on AWS, right? For test automation and source code management, we'll use Git and Selenium. And of course, we'll use Jenkins and Maven in our CI/CD efforts. Right, so that's the summary of the curriculum. This is obviously available on our website as well. So feel free to go and check out. If you have any other questions, I can answer here as well towards the end. As for who will kind of interact with you and what kind of people will talk to you in your efforts to become a DevOps expert, right? You just now heard from Mr. Nirmalya Mukherjee, right? He's one of our faculty and mentors. There are people who are director of engineering ops at GT Nexus. There are people from Adobe. There are senior architects from Infosys. I myself spent quite almost a decade now as part of the industry, and there are a whole bunch of other industry practitioners that collaborate with us in our efforts to mentor the next generation of DevOps leaders, right? So this is just an indicative list, right? It's not necessary that you learn from all of these people, but this is just to show you kind of the quality of faculty and mentoring that we have as part of the program. Now, one of the biggest challenges as far as an online program is concerned is the completion rates that people have, right? 99% of the times, deciding something to do online, right, is born out of two reasons. One is obviously the convenience factor, right? You don't want to kind of go to a classroom every now and then because you already work Monday to Fridays or even potentially Saturdays, and you want to do an online program for your convenience sake. Now that throws up a whole set of challenges, including you kind of falling off the journey and the track that you are in to complete the program. Now, to help you out there, to keep you constantly motivated, and also to kind of pull you up when you're not completing the required deliverables, right? We have a team of dedicated program managers for all of our students, right? So once you decide to enroll from that point forward until you graduate, and even beyond your graduation, for whatever help you need, you will have a dedicated program manager who will help you and keep you motivated throughout this program journey, right? So they help you learn and complete the program. They help you, answer any questions, any doubts, or any concerns if you have. They also help you in kind of, understanding what the assignment and projects are aimed for. And if they are, unable to kind of answer any question, they will certainly help you kind of get an answer to from a mentor or from other stakeholders, right? So it's an immense help that you get for any online program, and this particular feature has helped us and our learners to complete all our programs, and the rate is 90%, right? So every 9 out of 10 people that join us kind of complete the program and do it well. I got a couple of questions before the webinar, right, as to how well recognized the program is and what's the value in the industry and even what's the value internationally, right? Now, as far as the industry and the recognition is concerned, there's a list of rankings in front of you here, and these are generic rankings, right? This is more for the institution, and DECP is one of our newest offerings, right? So it takes some time to benchmark any program. I'm sure all of us understand that. But if you kind of go ahead in the industry and say, hey, I've done this program from Great Lakes and Great Learning, believe me or not, you will have a sense of respect and recognition that all good brands and alumni get, right? Also, what is more likely is that you'll find another Great Lakes and Great Learning alumni in the same company, or at least in your first or second degree of connections, who would be willing to help you, kind of reach out to opportunities, hiring managers, people, and also learn throughout. The icing on the cake is our programs are ranked very high. Our programs are rated high, from the most important stakeholders. That's learners like you, right? By 95% of the people, right? So our content, our delivery, all of these things are rated high by the people who come to learn with us, right? Both offline and online programs. So rest assured about the value that you will kind of get after completing the program, right? The only thing that you need to do from your side is to put in the effort and take the journey most honestly and try to become a DevOps expert. To help you kind of showcase your your work to the industry, we have a feature called the Academic e-Portfolio. So it's a personal web page on our hosting platform on our website, wherein we list your profile and the skills and the projects that you've done as part of the program, right? You can widely share this. You can easily copy the link and share it on LinkedIn, for your potential interviews and so on. So this is a wonderful feature, and then this definitely gets noticed by recruiters. And I'm sure many of you, if not all, are looking at a potential transition as an outcome of this particular program. For you to make the most of your career decisions and also your decision to pursue a DevOps program, we have our career support feature, which we now call GL Accelerate. GL Accelerate is more than just a feature. It's a huge platform for everybody to kind of work and find the next transition for themselves, right? So we do career fairs. These are dedicated, great learning career fairs that we do for all of our students, and this happens for different positions and profiles, and for different set of companies, right? We have our internal dedicated job board in which you can update your profile, keep it relevant and most up to date, and you will have recommendations and job sharings from our partner companies as well as other platforms. We do hackathons. As of now, we do it for data science and analytics. We'll very soon be starting for DevOps and cloud as well. You can choose to do a live project with your company as a capstone project. You can also seek one-to-one career mentorship if you want to have a CV review or a LinkedIn profile review, or even just have a conversation to clear your mind as to, hey, where do I go next in my career, right? So GL Accelerate is the dedicated platform that we offer you as part of all of our programs. Like I said, career support services, we have a host of them. But remember, the most important part of this entire journey, apart from what you learn, is the class group that you're part of, right? Remember, all of your peers, all of your classmates are working professionals, right? All of them from different backgrounds, different work experiences, and it's a solid opportunity for you to grow your professional network, to connect with people in your class who themselves might be hiring managers, and to also understand what each one of them is looking for, so that collectively you as a class group can help each other. And with that, in addition to what Great Learning is doing for you, becomes a solid support system, which gives you very, very high chances of becoming successful in your career. And naturally, when people get help and when people have transitions in their careers or even have a solid learning outcome, they kind of reach out to us and share their thoughts, right? So this is what Great Learning Alumni has to say. Obviously, you don't have to read, all of that, but the overall sentiment is, learning outcomes when they happen, as you've desired, and when you get real impacts in your career, that is when, we understand that we have done something really impactful, right? That's what we take pride in, and that's what we've been doing, right? And will continue to do. Our learners are people who come to learn with us. All of them are working professionals, and they work in the best companies that you can think across the world. Most of these are Fortune companies, and you can see a bank, you can see IT giants, you can see retail, you can see electronics, you can see petroleum, aviation, all of that, right? Healthcare, ERP, etc. So when I say your classmates and your peer group are world class, they are truly world class, and that adds to your learning experience as part of any of our programs. Having said all of that, I'm sure this is something that you must have seen on the websites, on the website that we have on the program page. But so minimum of 1 year of work experience is what we expect for people who are applying for our DevOps program. The fee details are in front of you. We can also, go for an EMI plan in case you want to spread across your payment over multiple months. And the selection process is pretty straightforward. You can apply online. Once you apply, you will get a screening call. The screening call is from the program director's office, and it's essentially meant to understand your motivation and reasons for pursuing the program. the suitability of your profile, and what do you intend to kind of achieve through the program. And once all of that is positive from the internal criteria that we have, we are happy to roll an admission offer, and then you can take the next step and enroll in the program. So that's all I had to kind of discuss for the program details itself, and then what's our philosophy like. Now let's open to questions from all of you, and let me answer these questions. And in case there are questions that we are unable to answer due to the limitation of time, feel free to reach out to us on the details right in front of you, right? DevOps@greatlearning.in, and also this particular mobile number. So I'll pause a bit now and take in questions. Okay. You guys can type in the questions in the question window. Jugal has a question. So is it a weekend program, and how much time we need to give? Thanks, Jugal, for asking that. Yes, it's a weekend program, but you also kind of need to engage yourself through the week. And if you ask me how much time would you need in the entire week, right, that would be about 4 to 6 hours in the entire week. And on the weekend, it would be 2 to 3 hours. Right. So during the week, what happens is every week we release a set of video lectures for you to go through. It's a flipped classroom model. These video lectures are from our own faculty, and you kind of have to go through them and review and take notes. Right. Once you have done that through the week, on the weekend you come prepared, from what you have learned, and then have a discussion with the mentors. So the mentor session is essentially for you to clarify and understand your conceptual and other kind of doubts, and also discuss use cases based on what you have learned. Right. So the time commitment would be a minimum of 4 to 6 hours every week. Jugal, does that answer your question? Like I said, it's an intensive program, and hence, we're pretty sure that you'll get the learning outcomes. Okay, Bhargav, is there available of real-time projects for practice? Bhargav, all the projects that we give kind of assigned to you are all real-time, and you can see the impact when you interview yourself after the program, and also look at the questions that other people ask. Yes, they are real-time. Bhargav, there are no daily classes. It's only weekend class, and the time would be between 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. That's the window, but in that window, you'll have a 2-hour mentor session, right? So your classes could be, from 9 to 11 or 11 to 1 or 2 to 4 in the afternoon, but we'll let you know that, right? At least 2 weeks before you enroll. 2 weeks before you start learning after your enrollment. Bhargav, does that help you? Okay, great. Oh, very, very nice question, Jugal. Why is 1-year work experience as a prerequisite? Look, honestly, it's an ideal to have a prerequisite because assuming that you spend at least a year in the industry, you would know the basics of how a team is structured, how what developers mean when they say I'm checking the source code. At least you mean what a testing analyst is doing, what a QA analyst is doing, what the infra team is doing, and so on. So in 1 year, if you work even on a decent project, you will understand the basic terminologies and the processes of the IT industry, right? So it becomes easier for you to relate to the program, right? It's like when you're doing an MBA, for example, the little work experience that you have, 1 or 2 years, helps you understand the concepts that are being discussed in the class, right? So it will add value to your learning. But if you're a fresher and if you're, very ambitious and very sure about you want to do this DevOps as a career, in that case also we'll be happy to welcome anybody, right? But having 1 year of experience is is an ideal eligibility criteria that we have, and it will help you as a learner. Jugal, does that clarify your question? Okay, okay, great. Ramesh, you just mentioned real-time projects, but our system resources will support that computing capacity. So Ramesh, do you mean your laptop? Is that the question? Okay, right. So as far as having a decent laptop is concerned, right? When I say real-time projects, you have 2 projects and 6 labs as part of the program, right? Now all these labs, a number of them are on the cloud, right? AWS. So for that, you need not worry. It can be done in a free tier account as well. Yeah. As far as project being done on the local laptop is concerned, that is something we'll have to check because each one of your laptops can be different. And if that is not feasible, you'll still have the option of doing it on the cloud, right? So you can simulate that particular environment. So for example, if you can't set up Jenkins on your laptop, you can do it on AWS for sure. Yeah. Ramesh, does that clarify your question? You're right. That's a great question. Yeah. Thanks for asking. Bhargav, after completing course, when we miss some class, is there a backup class? Bhargav, so again, very good question. So if you miss a class, what we have for you is the recorded version of that particular class which you missed, right, from your own batch. We do not do backup classes because attending a class is something that we believe is your responsibility. And since all of you are working professionals, even if 1 year experience, right, you're dedicating time to this particular program, right? And the sessions that happen, the classes or the online mentor sessions that we do, that's one of the most valuable components that you should definitely try not to miss, right? But if you miss, you have the recorded version of that. But it's infeasible for us to do a backup class for each and every absentee. So that's something we do not do as a process. But you'll have recorded versions of all the things that you do, all the mentor sessions, even after you graduate, right? Jugal, okay. Is there a plan to have next program like this after this month, this 3 months program? Jugal, you mean you might be interested in joining a bit later? Is that what you are hinting at? So we are starting right next week, February 16th, right? So Jugal, what I suggest is you reach out to the email ID and the number that we have here. And like I said, if you have a little less work experience or no work experience, you might still want to have a conversation with you and understand, how motivated you are. So I suggest you do that, yeah. Because we are starting next week and it's a good time to enroll, right? You'll have a little less time for pre-work, but you can dedicate some little extra time to kind of cover that. Rishi, yes, this is an online program. Yes, this is a completely online program. Bhargav, that is correct. Like I said, yes, GL Accelerate as a platform is purely meant for you to achieve career transitions. We will help you even after the program. Yes, absolutely. Great. Wonderful set of questions. So we still have about 10 minutes left. I'm still online for the next 10 minutes. Let's see if you guys have more questions. Could be questions regarding anything. So most welcome. Okay, Bhargav, as of now, there's no scholarship that we provide because it's one of the shortest programs that we offer, right? And if you see the tuition fee as well as compared to other programs, it's comparatively really low, right? For the quality that you get from Great Lakes and Great Learning. So I think it's a great opportunity for people to kind of get a Great Lakes credential, a Great Lakes certificate for such a tuition fee. And that's the reason why we do not have a scholarship for this particular program, right? It's 70,000 plus GST, Nadeem, the tuition fee. Ramesh, we just covered that as part of the presentation, right? So what I'll do is I'll take you back. Rishi, there is, so for discounts, what I suggest is you reach out to the admissions office, right? And kind of get this question answered. Do you see the email ID and the number on your screen, Rishi? Yes, just a brief email or just a one-line email also will help you. You can just put forward this question to the admissions team. They'll be able to help you with the right details. Ramesh, for your question, what tools do we cover? Let me take you back to the slides, which kind of answer this. Ramesh, do you see the slides now? Yeah, so these are the tools that we cover, right? And this. This is also pretty much available on the website. So take your time and go through the list of things that we cover, and then you can take that call. Yeah, but essentially over time also we'll keep updating these set of tools to reflect the market position and the adoption that they have, and tools will change over time because we all understand industry is something which adopts latest trends based on the convenience that they have and also the talent that's present in the team in terms of skills. Bhargav, we covered the ELK stack, Elasticache, Logstash, and Kibana. Like I said, these are the set of tools that you cover. If you look at monitoring, you can see the three tools that we do. And of course, there are hundreds of tools out there, right? So for example, on AWS, you have CloudWatch for monitoring. So we'll do that as well. We do not do Nagios, Bhargav. The industry is kind of moving away from that gradually. So we don't do that. We do ELK stack. Jugal, that will help a lot, right? That's something that is ideal to have. But if you have a Windows machine, you can have a VM for Linux, right? Using VirtualBox. Yeah. And also, if you create a free tier AWS account, you can use the T2 micro version of EC2, which gives you Linux free for 1 year, right? So we can discuss all of that. Don't worry about it. Yeah. Linux is great to have, but if you don't have it, do not worry about it. We'll figure out a solution. Rishi, yes, we will cover managed Kubernetes on cloud. Yes, because that's how most of the companies want to implement it. Yeah, we'll do that. Uh, Raghav, okay. Raghav, what I'll do is I'll check with the team, and I'm sure there must be an option to do that, and we can share it with you for sure. Yeah, thank you for asking that. Is there a specific question that I can help you with since you missed the first part? Okay, Bhargav has a very interesting question. What makes you different from other online institutes when compared to Great Lakes? Okay, Bhargav, it's a very subjective questions, right? So what makes us different is the quality of our programs, the quality of our mentors, our commitment to your learning and your learning outcomes, right? And a lot of other things, by the way. So Great Lakes is, first of all, not an online institute, right? And Great Learning also is not just an online institute. We are much more than that. So if you kind of research, you'll find out Great Lakes is one of the top 20 business schools in the country, even by Government of India rankings. Right? We spent almost 1.5 decades, educating people, and amongst private business schools, we are in the top 10 in the country. Right? So I don't think that's a fair comparison, right? But for all the reasons that I mentioned, just a few of them, that's why we are way ahead of other people. And in our existence of over last 5 years, we just do about 12 programs and not 10,000 programs, right? So we believe in quality over quantity, right? In everything that we do. That's why we are different. Great question, by the way. So Raghav, if you are AWS certified, you can choose multiple directions. You can choose to be a DevOps professional. You can become a cloud professional. In fact, you can try and do both. So there are multiple options that you can take your next steps towards. Right. If you wish, we can have a one-to-one discussion for that. Sure. Bhargav, thanks for asking. Yeah, sure. All right, we have just 2 minutes left, so maybe I can take one more question if there is. Okay, so since we do not have any more questions, right, for the cricket fans amongst yourself, I'm sure you can return to the T20 match that India is playing today, including myself. And for others, again, wishing you a very happy Vasant Panchami. And thank you for joining today. Really appreciate your time. And you've been a wonderful set of audience, right? Great questions. And I wish you a good day. Thank you.